Since we're getting ready for the exciting holiday, holy holiday of Chanukah coming up, just want to go over some of the laws of Chanukah very briefly. We do it every year. I'm sure everybody remembers from last year, from the year before, but had a whole year to forget maybe, so just to refresh our memories. Before we start, we want to mention that we want to dedicate our shmuz tonight to two people that need a refuah shlema. They need a real recovery. Very, very sick people, very fine people. One little girl by the name of Rachel Leah Bas. It's over here. Oh, here we are. Oh, here we are. It should be got me name. Bas Sheva Rachel Leah Bas Chaya Sora. A little girl who's very in need of prayers, very sick. And a young man, very special young man, who has a family in dire need of prayers, Rafael Menachem Meir ben Rezel Edel. So we hope that they will have a speedy recovery amongst all other sick people who need a recovery very soon. And we want to dedicate our shmuz tonight. The schus, the great merit of studying Torah, should be a reason for them to get what they need amongst all the other Chayei Yisrael. As for Chanukah, it was during the time of the Second Holy Temple, about 200 years into it. The temple stood 420 years. Around 200 years into the standing of the Second Holy Temple, the Greeks became in power, took over the world, the known world at that time, and they wanted to spread their culture and force people to accept their ideas and their philosophies, which were totally on the crash course with Jewish philosophy and Jewish ideas. But they came in strong, and they took the Jewish money away, their daughters, and tried to take away their religion. And it was a very, very difficult period of history for the Jewish people. And the Bnei Chashmonai, the children of the high priest, took upon themselves to fight, and they went against ridiculous odds, and they started fighting against the Greeks. They were not soldiers, they were not trained for war, but they had God on their side, and they rallied other Jews with them, and they fought, and they were successful. The day of the great victory was the 25th day of Kislev. The word Chanukah is made of two words. Chanu, they rested, they had peace. Chaf Hey, the 25th. Chaf, the numerical value is Chaf is 20, and Hey is 5. Chanu, Ka, they rested in the 25th day of Kislev. That's why it's called Chanukah. One of the reasons why it's called Chanukah. And we will discuss later more at length, but the great celebration of Chanukah, contrary to popular opinion, people say, what's Chanukah? Because of the menorah. There wasn't enough oil to burn because the Greeks nullified and made tameh, the pure oil that has to be used for the menorah. They made it tameh, they made it unuseful because it was not proper or ready. It has to be prepared in a certain way, the oil for the menorah, and they made sure to all the oil was disqualified from using it for the menorah, except they found one little flask of oil that could have lit for one day, maybe less than one day. The whole question of exactly how long it was able to light for a day or less than a day, and it burned for 8 days. So everybody asked somebody, what's Chanukah? That's what people say. Of course, that's Chanukah. But the main purpose of Chanukah, the main miracle of Chanukah was not that. That was sort of the icing on the cake. The main miracle of Chanukah was the fact that Jewish people were able to be victorious over their enemies and not be under the rule of the Greeks, and able to practice their religion the way they wanted to, against great odds, like we said before, which was a tremendous miracle. And that's really the main happiness that we have in Chanukah. The Jewish people broke off the yoke of the Greeks and able to practice Judaism the way they wanted to. And this is important for us to tell our children and grandchildren about this great miracle, these great miracles that happened. They should know, to be proud, to realize that God's on our side, and He does miracles for us. He watches over us then and now and always. It's important for our children and grandchildren to realize this. We should talk about Chanukah not only as a historical piece of information, but to bring it to our current times, modern times, and to impress upon them that God's always with us, even though we're in Golus, we're out of our homeland for so many years. The temple has not been built yet, but wherever we are, He is, God is. He's always watching over us and making sure that we survive and that we're not destroyed by our enemies. So we have to make it not just a historical fact that happened then, but to make sure that they realize, our children and grandchildren and ourselves, that God is there for us at all times. He's watching. Sometimes it doesn't look like it, but the bottom line is that He is. It's a special mitzvah to give charity and tzedakah on Chanukah, even though it's a mitzvah, fantastic, great mitzvah, a whole year around, to give charity. On Chanukah especially, it's a mitzvah to give tzedakah, especially to those people who study Torah, because that's one of the decrees they made not to study Torah in those times. To the yeshivas, the lifeblood of the Jewish people, houses of study where young men study day and night Torah, to support those great houses of learning that we have in our midst today, which keeps us going throughout the darkness of the diaspora of the Golus. The yeshivas is what kept the Jewish people alive. Special mitzvah to give tzedakah on Chanukah, especially to the yeshivas, to the houses of learning. It's permitted to do malacha, to work other holidays. You can't, Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot. Chanukah is permitted to do work, but it's a tradition that women do not do work during the time that the half hour of the obligation for the Chanukah lights to burn. They don't do malacha then. They have a special schus, special mitzvah, since the nes, part of the nes came through a woman, through Yehudis, who killed the Greek general, and through that there was a great help to fight against the Greeks. So she did it. The whole story of what it was, I don't want to go into it right now. And also, like you said before, because the Jewish women were very oppressed at that time through the Greeks, so they have a special feeling for the mitzvah of Chanukah, and they have this great schus and merit to have the mitzvah not to do any malacha during the half hour of the burning of the neiros. Person can light Chanukah lights with any type of candles or oil, but it's a mitzvah to use olive oil, since the miracle happened with olive oil. And electric menorahs are not really acceptable to fulfill the mitzvah. A person might want an electric menorah to put in your window, but it's a big mitzvah to put in a candle menorah or an oil menorah in the window for people to see, or at least in the house itself, because the mitzvah happened, the miracle happened through oil. Therefore, it's a mitzvah to use oil to fulfill the mitzvah like it should be done. And a special mitzvah put it in the window to show everybody that the great nice happened, the great miracle happened. We want to mefarsim it and proclaim it, and people should know about it. During the half hour of the lighting of the candles, that should be a minimum of time. The candle should not be used for any other use. Shabbos candles, on the contrary, Shabbos candles we light in order to be able to see, to use them, and to go by its light, to use its light. Shabbos candles. Chanukah candles, just the opposite. We light them for the mitzvah itself. Don't want to have any other, derive any other pleasure from it, only to show that it's a mitzvah. Just to look at it and remember the mitzvah, and we should not be used for anything else. That's why we light a shamus, we call it an extra candle, in case we walk into the room and the candles are burning, so we should we should use the light of the shamus, not the light of the Chanukah candle. That's why we always light them, not only to light the candles we use the shamus, but it should burn all the time that the other candles are burning, in order that in case we do need the light in the room, we should not be using the light of the candles of the Chanukah, but this extra candle which is not part of the mitzvah. Erev Shabbos, we have to make sure, very short days now, it's very hard, to make sure that the Chanukah candles are lit before sundown. You should be lit right before the Shabbos candles are lit. Shabbos candles should be lit before sundown naturally. And the Shabbos Chanukah candles, so you have to make extra long candles. If only a half hour, it's not going to be enough time to burn, because it has to burn half hour after dark. So therefore, either you put more oil into the menorah that should burn longer, or use Shabbos candles for the Chanukah lights Friday night. After Shabbos, most people make Havdalah first and then light the Chanukah candles. Okay, that in short is just a little brief reminder of the laws of Chanukah. Tonight, the name of our shmooze. God, what can we do to get you to do miracles for us like you did at the time of Chanukah? Can we do that? We'd like to have miracles. Sounds like fun. To have miracles. It's great. How come they had it? They had it then. Can we have it now? So to explain this, we have to go through certain ideas to bring out the point. I brought along this Gemara. This is the first tractate of the Talmud Brochus. Interesting story, which I'll freely translate to you. I think you'll find interesting and find a little shocking and maybe a little bit not American. The question was, those people who were students of the Talmud tractate Brachas, page 20, Daf Chaf. Amar Papa Abaye, these two great rabbis of the Talmud, one said to the other one, this question. Ma'ishna Rishon b'Sachzul Nisa. That's on our glossary sheet. It's number 1. Why is it that in the early generations they had miracles, and now we don't have miracles? I talked about in our time today. We're talking over here well over 1,000 years ago. These were the last ones of the Talmud, Papa and Abaye, well, sort of in the middle of the Talmud. And well over 1,000 years ago, they asked this question. How come they had miracles and we don't have miracles? Now this is not literal, because studying the Talmud, there were many miracles that happened with these rabbis that they're talking about. So obviously that means either they weren't as often as they were then, in the earlier generations, or they were not as spectacular miracles as they were in the generation before them. But whatever they had in mind, they asked this question. He says, maybe because they studied more Torah than we studied, they're greater. No, shows, prove that that's not the reason. So why? And he brings a proof to what he's saying, that just a few, I would say, maybe 150, 200 years before them, there was a great rabbi, Rav Yehuda, who, when the Jews needed rain, there was a drought. Those times the drought was very dangerous. They didn't have ways to purify the water because they were bubbled, these people in Babylonia. They couldn't import water. It was very dangerous without rain. So if it would not rain for a long period of time, in Israel today also, if there's drought, they call special prayers to pray to God to give rain. So they came to this great Rabbi, Rav Yehuda, and asked him to pray for them. So it was a time of a Torah, of a difficult period for the Jewish people. There's no rain. There's no rain. There's no water to drink. The crops can't grow. It's like Tisha B'Av. So he would take off his shoes before he would pray to show tsar, to show that he's feeling with the Jewish people. People are going through difficult times. He wanted to show these parts of it. He would take off his shoes, just like we do at Tisha B'Av. He took off one shoe. He didn't even get to take off the second shoe yet. And the rain started coming. There's a pasuk we say in the prophets. There'll be times before you'll even pray, I'll answer you. This rabbi was so great, such a great person. So God saw he wants getting ready to pray. He only took one shoe. Rain started coming, pouring. That's how God, like a miracle. What's up? Rain. And we now, 150 years later, Messiah, we fast. They don't listen to us. God doesn't. How come? Big question. So he said to him like this. With number 2, he took up one shoe. The rain came. That's his question that Abaye asked Abaye. So he answered him the following. You know why? This is old written in Aramaic. Words of the Talmud. You must see different kind of, not Hebrew here, it's Aramaic. There's the Talmud mainly mixed Aramaic with Hebrew. Kamoi have a machmasu nafshay akdushas Hashem. The early generations before us literally means, we have number 3, previous generations would give their lives totally to sanctify God's name, subordinate themselves. They totally gave themselves over the Mesiras Nefesh to sanctify God's name. We don't do that. We're not strong enough, we're not brave enough, us to give over ourselves to God's sanctification like they did. And that's the reason. What does that mean? So he told him. He gave him an example. That's number 3. Kamoi have a must Hashem, that they would give themselves totally over. The story happened that this great rabbi, Rabbi Oorah he was called. Great stories are told about him in different places in the Talmud and the Gemara. He was walking down the street one day and saw this woman who was wearing a piece of clothing, karbalta, number 4, not proper for a Jewish woman to wear. It was not befitting a Jewish woman. Right in the street in front of everybody, she was wearing something that was not proper. He got so upset, he ran over, pulled it off of her. Nerve. You're Jewish woman, to walk like that in front of everybody. Number 5, Carmina, pulled it away from her. Of course, it was very embarrassing for her. It came out, she wasn't a Jewish lady. She wasn't Jewish. She took him to court. She took him to a court. Don't do that in front of everybody. And they gave him a big knas, a big fine, a lot of money they charged him. They had the nerve to go over and do that to somebody. So he suffered financially very much. Got a big fine for doing what he did. And they asked her, "What's your name?" He asked her. Maybe he wanted to make her feel better. He felt bad. For a Jewish woman, there's one thing. Not a Jewish woman, it's not his business to get involved. So people will say, "Wow, is that what you do?" That's in word saying, he went ahead, couldn't bear the fact. Well, Jewish woman should go like that in the street. So people say, "Live and let live." What are you doing? As a Jewish woman, you go over and do a thing like that? You have a right to do that? That's not American, because Americans say, you mind your own business. Freedom of religion, everybody does what they want to do, and no right to mix in with other person's ideas of religion. But that is not a Jewish concept, like we've spoken many times. That's as far as other religions are concerned. You want to be Christian, you want to be Arabic, whatever. Yeah, that's freedom of religion. But as far as the Jewish people are concerned, we are responsible for one another. And we can't just say, do what you want, and I'll do what I want. We are all responsible. We're all connected with one another. And if we see somebody doing something wrong, we're obligated to tell them and say, "Listen, that's not right. You have to do the right thing." If we saw somebody, one of our children, that's being burned in the fire, they're being hurt, we say, "Well, that's their business. I don't have to get involved. They want to commit suicide. They want to do what they want to do. That's up to them." What would we do? We'd go over and grab them. We wouldn't let them do what they want. A matter of life and death, or hurting somebody else. Somebody wants to hurt themselves. We just stand by and say, "Well, it's up to their business. I don't care." Then we'd be pretty cruel to do a thing like that. To stand back and let them do what they want. That's against the Torah law too. You're not allowed to stand by when somebody else is being in a dangerous situation. We have to go and help them. We can't stand by and let them drown or whatever. They jump in, we have to jump out. We have to pull them out. So question in halacha and Jewish law, if you jump in, maybe the person himself might drown with him. Are you allowed to jump in if you're afraid maybe yourself? I'm not sure. So question about that. But anyway, you can't stand by if you can save the person. So when it comes to religion, we say a person's religion, a person to do God's will. For their sake, for this world and the world to come, to do something wrong. How can we let them do something wrong? That's how his philosophy was. I see this person doing something wrong, can't let it happen. Got so upset about it. For her sake, for being a Jewish woman, you can't do that. And I won't let you do that, because you're hurting yourself and hurting all of us, because we're all together. It's all one Jewish nation. So this is what he told them. What does that mean? What does it take? What does a person have to do? A person's tendency is, I don't want to get involved. You want to do your thing, I'll do my thing. Go tell people and start pushing them, forcing them, and putting upon themselves something that they're not ready for, they don't want to do. We don't have the natural tendency to get involved. We want to just mind our own business and not start it with somebody else. To do that, you have to go against your nature. You have to say, if you feel like is turning my head and going the other way and leaving them alone. But if I know it's the right thing, I have to get a hold of myself and go against my nature and do the right thing. That's called Mesiras Nefesh, we're talking about. To subordinate yourself to God's will, even though it's against your nature. That's what we're in this world for. To have challenges, difficulties, but we stand up and we do what's right, even though we don't feel like doing what's right. We spoke about this at great length a few weeks ago, about character traits. A person has to work on himself. Number one, to control them, to change himself. But this is what Mesiras Nefesh is. And that's he gave an example of that's the type of people they were, he said. Now, I wanted to explain this answer they told him. What does this have to do with miracles? Since they're ready to go ahead and do such actions like that, therefore God make them the miracles. What does one have to do with the other? We have one of the most, what should I call it, special, outstanding, puzzling, maybe, words of the Torah in Parshas Kedoshim, the middle of Vayikra, the third book. It starts off and it says, God spoke to Moses. They told him, tell the Jewish people, Kedoshim tihiyu. You should be holy. Why? Because I'm holy. I'm the Lord your God, you should be holy. Number 6. You should be holy because I am holy. Imagine that. Okay. What do you want from us, God? You're holy. What do you want from us? You should be holy because I'm holy. Explained by the great Malbim, one of the great commentaries. A really important idea that we have to live with. And it's very apropos for we're talking about tonight and for Chanukah. What does holiness mean? What does it mean to be holy? To get into the understand the depth of holiness. You think about holiness as somebody who looks has a certain look to them, or some kind of abstract kind of idea. Holiness. What does the word holy really mean? Number 7, Perushim Me'elam Hazeh. Holiness means to be separated. Number 7, I put down over here. Holy means separated from the mundane world. That's holiness. Person who's separated from the person who's holy means that he is a spiritual person and not involved more than necessary in the world that we live in. Whether it's in food, whether it's in money, any type of desire that people have, he's aloof and it's separated from that. That's holiness. That's the real word of holy. God tells us we should be separated. Now let's understand. God created man with a nature. We have character traits. We have desires. We are earthly people. That's what we are. We have a body, flesh and blood. And we have 2 ways how we can conduct ourselves. We can conduct ourselves with the way God created us and live with all these desires and be into this mundane world like most people are and try to really live it up and get the best things in life, of the mundane earthly life, physical life. Called the American dream, to have all the housing, cars, food, everything to take in this world to live, enjoy ourselves. There's another way we could live, a holy life, to make ourselves more spiritual and not make that so important to our lives, to put a lot of time and energy and thought and speech into the mundane articles and objects of the world, we can be above that and control ourselves to live a more spiritual life, Jewish life, Torah life, doing what God wants us to do. Because we think, after all, how long does a person live in this world anyway? The main life of a person is the hereafter. The hereafter is a life of holiness, not a life of mundane, earthly things. So a person has that attitude, so he's holy. He's lifted up, pulls himself out of the rat race of the world, of getting all the things people want, the desires. Never being happy, naturally. People are never happy because they never get enough desires. They always want more. It's never enough. So on. Those searching for happiness with mundane, earthly things, but never get enough of it. That's the two ways that people can live their life. With the way God created us in this world, with this world, living this world, or lift ourselves above it. God also has two different ways of conducting himself. He created the world with a certain teva, it's called. We have number 7, number 8, Adam, a person could be teva, could be with this world, in the nature of the world, or lift himself above it. Number 9, God also, teva, derech nes. God created the world also two ways. Created nature. Everything happens. The sun comes up in the morning, goes down at night, comes the rain. Everything is a natural way that we see the world going on day to day. Another way God created the world was he could change nature and make miracles. So God tells us, I'll tell you something. I have two ways of conducting the world. I can make it the nature that I made in the beginning, and we won't change it. Or I could change it. How does that happen? Depends how you act. Kedoshim tiyu, you should be holy, then I'll be parish. I'll be separated from the world. You'll separate yourself. Depends how you act. If you, the Jewish people, act with the first way that we're discussing, you just want to live in this world for this world and not lift yourself above, so I'll be the same with you. The world will go the way I created it. There won't be any changes, and things will go the way they seem to always go. But if you will lift yourself above and make yourself holy and be in charge of yourself and not let your desires be in charge of you, but you will be in charge of them, and you'll lift yourself to a higher level of spirituality, and you'll be the one who is in charge of yourself and not your desires, then I will also act to you the same way. I'll lift myself above the teva of the nature of the world, and I'll make things different. I'll change the nature of the world, and I'll make miracles for you. That's what we're talking about. God conducts himself to us the way we conduct ourselves. If we conduct ourselves with our teva, being very earthly and mundane, then the world is earthly and mundane. It goes the way it is. If we lift ourselves above that, God will lift himself above that also. And that's what the Gemara is telling us over here. Why did God do miracles for them? Because they're mercy nefesh, because they went against their nature, because they would rather leave them alone and not get involved and live my life the way I like to live it. But no, they said, I'll live my life the way God wants me to live it. Even though it's not so comfortable, not so convenient, but I'll lift myself above that and live a Torah life, a godly life. Therefore, God said, if that's the case, I'll also lift myself above the nature of the world, and I'll make rain come when naturally wouldn't have come the rain, and whatever things that you need, I'll make miracles for you because you are lifting yourself above the world and the natural world. I'll live myself above the natural world. And that's why the previous generations, I should say, were merited and worthy of miracles because they were so great. But they felt in their time already, such great rabbis, some of the greatest over here, they felt even that time, they're not that level yet of the greatest people before them. And that is what Chanukah is all about. Because Chanukah has the hidden miracles, the wars that they won. It's not an open miracle. People say, well, they were great warriors. And according to the history books, the 10 greatest generals, one of them is Yehuda Maccabee, one of the 10 greatest generals who ever lived. He was such a great general. He had crazy odds against him. He was able to win the war. They make it as if it's not a miracle. That's a hidden miracle. But the menorah was an open miracle. You can't have oil burning 8 days for only 1 day. Only enough oil for 1 day. Can't burn 8 days. God made miracles for the Jewish people. Why? Because they stood up and they gave themselves over, willing to give their lives, fighting against ridiculous odds. And therefore, that's why they merited open miracles for themselves. Hidden miracles, open miracles, because they made a miracle by themselves. A person to lift himself above his nature and do things. Why get involved? What can they do? They're way stronger than us. What can we do? We have to give up. We have to give up. Give in. That's what they want us to do. We have no way out. The Greeks with their culture, we can't keep the Torah. It's impossible. They're too strong for us. It'd be much more convenient. Just let them have what they want, and we have to listen to them. That would be what's convenient. But they didn't live that way. They stood up and said, no, we'll do what's not convenient. We're going to fight against them. Well, a lot of us will be killed. So what? But we're going to stand up for what's right. And go against our teva, go against something that we feel like doing, and do what God wants us to do. We'll be in charge. And that's why God made for them miracles, because they went against their teva, their nature. God went against the nature of the world and brought them up. And this is what you have to, in their own way, comes to Chanukah, wonderful holiday, with Oorah, there's lights, there's latkes, there's sufgoniot, all the good things of Chanukah, wonderful. But let's not forget the main thing of Chanukah, the main point for the kids. It's nice for the kids. We're adults now. We have to be a little higher level than just stopping by latkes and sufgoniot. That's very nice, and we want to have the Chanukah and make it joyous. But we have to start thinking, we have to make ourselves higher, more aloof from this world, a little bit more into God's will. We have to think a little deeper into it. Just can't the same Chanukah we had when we were 5 years old, and 10 years old, and 15 years old. Some people, the whole life, the same Chanukah they had when they're playing dreidel, they're still playing dreidel, that's it. It's no good. We have to think that to get something out of Chanukah, make ourselves a little higher, a little more an understanding of what it's all about. Think of something that's not so easy to do. Give a little more charity to do. We like to keep our money. Maybe you should try to keep Shabbos a little bit more, once in a while. Maybe you should kosher a little bit, everybody in their level, to do something a little bit more. I don't feel like doing it. So what? The Cheshmonoim didn't feel like doing it either, to go out and fight against terrible odds like that. But they did it. They went against their nature, because that's God wants us. We want to be aloof. He wants us to be more spiritual, not just live the way we feel like. We're not put in this world to live the way we feel like. We have to do something in a higher level of spirituality to try to bring ourselves every Chanukah, every holiday like that. We're not discuss specifically Chanukah, but that's what we have to think about. What they stood for, what they were doing, we have to bring it to ourselves and bring us up to a higher level to feel that we're growing in a connection to God, to feel that God's proud of us. We're taking this holiday, wonderful, joyous, holy holiday of Chanukah, and making it something more, making ourselves more than we were before. To go away from the Chanukah feeling we grew spiritually, and we're at a different level of greatness than we were before. And now we have come to the time to any questions somebody might want to ask.
Rabbi, we said after 1,000 years, we ask why we didn't see miracle. But even today, we see miracles. Like we just had a war in Israel, about 500 missiles fell down, and almost nobody got injured. This is a miracle.
Yeah, we see miracles. The fact that we're living and the heart's beating and everything is a miracle, but we're talking about miracles, like we said before, they also saw miracles, but in the extent and the amount and to the degree that they saw in the earlier generations, it was much more concentrated, much more outstanding. A lot of people say today, well, that wasn't a miracle. It just happened, the missiles there, the Arabs don't know what they're doing over there. They just shoot at them, they don't know what they're doing over there. People just make nothing out of it. See, it's not an open miracle. You can't see in front of our eyes unless a person like you sees it. But not everybody sees it that way. So people would just, poo-poo it and say, that's not a miracle. So something that's it. It's a miracle. And nobody can reject it. That's what we're talking about.
Rabbi, this is actually a follow-up to that question. Just the fact that the state of Israel is in existence today. It's been how many years? I can't count, since 1948. That in itself is obviously, well, a lot of people consider that a miracle. What's the zechut for that? Because, I mean, Mashiach is not here yet, but obviously, could it possibly be that we're on the right track? Where Hashem is
well, the 67 war, probably you guys weren't born yet then. I remember the 67 war, that was really a miracle. Whoa, that was something. Who was in the 67 war? I don't know, some of the older folks over here. That was, but what's going on in Israel now? Well, it's debatable. Some of the people will say we don't have a religious government, secular government. It's not the way we want it to be. And but it's certainly, there's a lot of good things going on over there, and a lot of Jews are having a very spiritual life. And what the zechut that we have? Well, it's hard to know. But number one zechut is that we're God's people, born with God's children. So He wants to do good with the kindness for us. So that's the number one zechut. We have people doing mitzvot, different kind of mitzvot we have. People studying Torah today. People giving charity today. There are a lot of good people around. People are giving really a lot of charity today. Real rich people give away so much money, so much chesed, some good organizations going on, so many good things. There are a lot of things we have, we can say that we're doing, that God likes us. So exactly to pinpoint this is it, you have to have a prophet for that. Without a prophet, we can't really know.
I'd like to ask you about a different time period. Samson was born to a family of Nazarenes. What happened to that? Is it just a one group of people who believed in those three prohibitions? No wine, no grapes. What happened to the Nazarene beliefs?
Well, Nazarene is a Nazir, is a mitzvah in the Torah. It's not a belief by somebody who came along. The Torah talks about being a Nazir. Anybody, any Jewish person in any branch, Reuven or Shimon, any of the 12 branches of the Jewish nation could become a Nazir. Become a Nazir for 30 days or for 60 days, whatever it is. It's not hereditary. When the father's a Nazir, the child's not a Nazir. One is nothing to the other. It's a personal commitment by a person by himself to become a Nazir. To keep away from wine and not touch any dead bodies and let his hair grow. And it's considered a very holy person. But that is a personal commitment and not depending where he comes from, which family he comes from, not obligating his children to be a Nazir. That's totally private, a connection between a man and God, that the particular person. It has nothing to do with any family. It's up to him to become a Nazir. No, to touch the hair for that amount of time. That the person, he wants to not to he's to cut his hair and make himself look nice. He's dedicate himself to God, that he's not involved in mundane things. Drinking wine, we said before, he wants to lift himself above. Most people get haircuts. They make them look very nice. He got a good barber, and they tailor the hair the right way. He lets his hair grow. It doesn't look so nice. It looks ungewachsen, like we do in the 3 weeks that we let our hair grow. And the times of Avelis, people that are mourning don't cut their hair for a month or 2 months, whatever it is. It's not considered a very nice kind of look that a person has when you let your hair grow. So he's working on himself to take away. He might feel a little bit arrogant about himself. Oh, look at the I look so nice, and everybody's looking at me. So he takes upon himself Nazirus to look not so good for 30 days, whatever it is. The amount of time takes upon himself. Not to drink wine, not to indulge in the mundane objects of the world, wine and good looks. That's what the purpose of a Nazir is. Well, why do we have to work on the hidden meanings? We're working on the obvious meanings. That's why a Nazir. Well, that's what we're told. What the Nazir is all about. The Nazir is all about. He's making himself Kadosh. He's called holy. Why? Because he's mufresh. He's separated from the world. He's not drinking wine. He's not taking care of his looks. He's out of this world for 30 days. That's the Nazir is all about. Because that's what we're talking about. I'm glad you brought it up. That's a Nazir. It can be any time of the year, any person, any period of time. Not today. Today we don't become Nazir. We don't become Nazir today. But what? Well, that's not me. I'm telling you what the great the commentators, what the rabbis tell us. That's not my own. What I'm telling you now is not my own interpretation. This comes from the Talmud, from the Oorah law. What I'm saying you now. I'm not saying my own kind of ideas. This is Torah ideas.
Nowadays, it's not uncommon to see people using electric menorahs. Are they fulfilling the mitzvah of lighting candles for Hanukkah?
No. I'm sorry to say that they're not fulfilling the mitzvah. The mitzvah has to be with a wick, and it has to be similar to the mitzvah of the menorah in the Holy Temple, which had a wick and it had a liquid going into the wick and burning. Even a candle is the same principle. As a wick, and as the heat melts the wax, and the wax goes into the candle, and that's the type of kind of mitzvah.
Like a question which was emailed in from somebody, Arthur. He wants to know, we light Chanukah candles at a window or a door to publicize the miracle. Why don't we have such a rule by other mitzvahs as well? Also, should we, as Jews living in a non-Jewish society, be celebrating our observances in public? Because he wants to know if it's not antagonizing the Goyim, and also what's unique about Hanukkah specifically over the other mitzvahs.
Okay. The answer to the second question, the first I'll answer. According to the Gemara, which discusses the laws of Chanukah, it says that you're supposed to put the menorah by your door. Everybody should see the menorah. It's called Pirsum, to publicize the miracle. And you put the menorah on one side and mezuzah on the other side. That was surrounded with mitzvahs. But we're supposed to put the menorah on the outside. But the Gemara tells us that if we are not in a place where the Jewish people are appreciated, and we're afraid that the non-Jews start up with us, start throwing stones at the window, stones at the door, whatever it is. So then we put it on a table in the house. You don't have to put it in front of all the non-Jews, Jewish place, for them to give us a hard time, that they don't want us to show our Judaism. So we have to make it in a different way. We still have to light the menorah, but not in a way that's going to antagonize the non. In Europe, people did not light the menorah in the windows, because in most places, Sephardic countries the same way. The non-Jews were very mean to the Jews most places, and they would not allow them to, many of them would start up with them and hurt them. So because if they showed the, today they're afraid to go with the yarmulke. They told me in Iran, when they came from Iran, there's a lot of people escaped from Iran years ago. They're running away, a lot of the boys and girls. They told me, I asked them, how's life in Iran? He said, how's life in hell? He said to me. I said that to me. So I said, what's wrong? He said, you go to the yarmulke in there, they'll beat you up, the kids will beat you up, and you go in the street with yarmulke in Iran. So some of the different countries that the Jews suffered from the goyim like that. So they started putting in the menorah on the table inside the house. Jews came to America, and America's freedom of religion, but people were so used to it at that time. Most people still put it in their house because they're used to it from Europe. But now that we're living in a society of free society, and people do what they want, all kinds of crazy things, so the Jews, like the menorah in the window, is not considered, we don't get any flack usually from the non-Jewish people. So we started again putting in the window in order to show the nace to everybody. And the reason why we do this mitzvah is because God, miracle that was done. Other mitzvahs are not. We put tzitzis in the window. There's no reason to put tzitzis in the window. We want to show there's a miracle that God did to the Jewish people, and we want that to be. This is for the Jews, not for the non-Jews. For the Jewish people to show that our great love for God, He does miracles for us. So we want to publicize it in order to make a whole big holiday of Chanukah. This is a holiday of miracles of God's closeness to the Jewish people, that He does miracles for us. So that's why we do the mitzvah. Other mitzvahs are not miracles, so there was no purpose to put it to publicize it. We want to publicize the special bond that God to the Jewish people that does miracles for us.
Rabbi, I have a question. There must be something special about the oil. Somehow when the king gets anointed, they put oil on his head, and Yaakov Avinu, he was putting oil on the stones. What does it has to do with oil? What's so special about oil that makes a king or somebody special?
Because oil is called yitzhar. The two names for oil is called shemen. That's the most common name for oil is shemen. It's oil. Yitzhar is another name for oil. Yitzhar means tzohar. Comes the word from tzohar, from light. Noach's teva, when he went into the ark in the flood, tzohar, made a window. It's words of light. And shemen and oil is a thing that we light with. And light gives off warmth. It gives off light to see. And therefore, shemen is a sign of warmth and light. And the reason why you anoint the king or the great priests or special people, they put oil on their head, is to show that their head should be dedicated for light and for warmth. The king has to be a person who's going to give Torah to the nation, to show them the light of the world. Torah is called Oorah. Torah is called light, and Shemen is called light. And the purpose of a king is to give light to his people, give warmth to them, take care of them. He take care of the economy. A king is a civil servant. So some people think that kings abuse their power. The reason why a king has so much power is in order to be able to do for the public, for his people. That's why Torah gave us so much power. But many kings abuse their power, and they use it for their own personal pleasures. Most kings got very corrupted, and that's why the government of kingdom didn't go over well over the generations, because power corrupts. And instead of using their power for helping the people and giving what they need, and their physical needs and their spiritual needs, they took advantage of it for their own needs. But the real purpose of a real king, King David and King Solomon, all the great Jewish kings, they were dedicated to the Jewish people. And they gave themselves over. They had a very difficult life. But they dedicated themselves for the Jewish nation, they should have a better life, spiritually and physically. So the oil represents light. That's why the menorah and the temple and the menorah that we light, Chanukah lights, is all representing the Torah, the light of the Torah, which gives light to the world, to us, to show us how to live, and warmth, and giving us a purpose in life, and something we should live for, to have the real pleasure of life, to know how to live.
Yes, thanks.
This may be a political type of a question. Why do you think the world and the media appears to always take the Arab side? Do you think it's economics, hatred of the Jews maybe, or perhaps fear of what the Arabs or the Muslims may do in terms of retaliation?
Well, it's probably a little bit of everything. Even some of the media, which is run by Jews, they're also anti-Jews, anti-Israel, self-hating Jews. And one thing you didn't mention was there's a lot of influence that the Arabs have. They have a lot of money, and they can control a lot of the media with their behind-the-scenes tactics with the money that they have. So, but we know that there's a lot of hate for the Jews. I mean, that's probably the foremost reason. Just like all over the generations, so hate for the Jews. In Germany, there's hate for the Jews. In Russia, there's hate for the Jews. And wherever we go, the Arab countries, there's always hate for the Jews. Wherever we go, there's hate for the Jews. Why is it called Sinai? Mount Sinai. Sinai. Why is it called Sinai? Sinah. The day the Torah was given, you're the Sinah la'olam. When God gave the Torah to the Jews, hatred came down to the world. Why? Well, one reason is because jealousy. And one reason because we're the conscience of the world, because the Jews represent greatness, kedusha, holiness. The Jews represent being aloof, a little bit more spiritual, and not so into this world, and that gives the non-Jewish world a guilty conscience. So they want to live in this world the way, not the way the Jews want to live. So it's a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and therefore there's hate for the Jews, or that we're outstanding, special people, and people don't. That's like you have in school. A lot of the kids that are talented and the brains of the class. A lot of kids hate them. Why? They don't like them. Why? Because they're jealous of them. Because they're smarter than them, and they're special, and they get special attention. And the teacher likes them better. So the Jews, the same thing. They're very smart. They're very successful. God likes them better. The same reason. The kid in the class, the kids hate them. The same. The Jews are hated by the nations of the world. Not all of them hate us. We have some good friends too. But the question is, it's a little bit of everything, plus, but I think the main thing is, throughout the generations, it's been a jealousy of the Jews, because the Jews always come to the top. And all the nations, they're always the ones that the kings, we're talking about kings now, a lot of the kings, they retire when they become kings and give over the government to other people, and most of them are Jews, go out throughout the nations, because the Jews don't get drunk. The Jews are very studious, and the Jews are very responsible, and they're the ones who run a lot of the countries because they're very outstanding, they're very qualified. So this causes hatred with others. They see that they're special.
Rabbi, I'd like to continue with the oil, the question. At Chanukah, we celebrate Chanukah because of the miracle of the oil. And the oil lasted 8 days.
And of the wars that they won, both.
It lasted for 8 days, but the first day was no miracle. So why we have to celebrate 8 days? It's a miracle like 7 days, not really 8 days.
Well, that's the big question that's asked and answered with so many different answers. But I'll give you two answers now. One I sort of rolled over before. He said, how much oil that they found was enough for how long? Was it enough for 1 day or less than a day? So some say it wasn't even enough even for 1 day. So it was a miracle that it even lasted for 1 day. Some say there was not enough even for 1 day. And another reason is because we want 1 day to celebrate the victory the Jews had over the Greeks. We said before, Chanukah has two main purposes, and the main one is the victory over the Greeks that we're able to celebrate and to keep the laws of the Torah. So that's the biggest miracle. So we dedicate one day of Chanukah, that's the 8th day, commemorating, remembering, thanking God for the great miracle that He gave us the power to overcome the ridiculous odds against us. And we were able to be victorious over them. So the 7 days is for the menorah miracle, and the 1 day is for the wars miracle, the battles. Are you with me here?
When you said, God said to Moses, I want you to be as holy as I am, how he didn't specify.
As holy as, no, not as God. You should be holy, not as God.
As
holy as God.
As holy
you
as
should
God.
Be holy, I'm holy, if you shall also be holy according to how much you're able to be holy. But we cannot be as holy as God. God
But
doesn't have a body. God doesn't
Exactly.
live in this world.
That was my point. If he's the
That's a
spirit,
very important point.
how
God is telling us you should have holiness to the extent that you're able to. But take it from me that I'm holy and learn from there, and as much as you're able to.
But if he's a spirit, how can he be holy? And he
is-
didn't specify the holiness.
That's what I'm saying, because he is mufresh, he's separate, aloof from the worldly, mundane objects and ideas of this world. So we make ourselves as much as possible to follow him and imitate him. We can't be like him totally, it's impossible.
But back then, when Moses, there were no vehicles, there were no material things.
Time of Moses?
Yeah.
Oh yes, there was a regular world, like we live in today. There was
I thought there was slavery.
a regular world, everything, food and water and pay and cakes, and it was a regular world.
Slavery, but they had a lot of.
It was a world with everything we have today. They had then. It's the same world. What? No. I can't agree with you on that. If you study the history and the Torah and the prophets, very, very worldly, mundane, earthly, physical people. They were really into it, maybe more than we are today. Well, it was both. They were very. Some people are very holy, and some people are very not holy. God makes equal balance. Today, they were worse people than at that time, but therefore they could be better. Today, not as bad as then, can't be as good as them. So God makes a balance in every generation. That the opportunities are equal, to be bad and to be good. That's always like that. And you had major villains, major Haman and Nimrod, and some of the worst Og. These are the terrible, wicked people of the world that we don't have today, that bad. Hitler, well, he came pretty close.
Rabbi,
Yes.
we spoke about Mesirut Nefesh. Like if we see something wrong, we have to say something. But sometimes
Mesirat Nefesh really is, that's one example. Mesirat Nefesh means go against our feelings, to do the right thing. That happens to be one of them. If you see someone doing something wrong, our natural tendency is to look away and not get involved. So we have to overcome that and get involved. Okay, that's one example.
yeah, but sometimes like we become judge. We judge the other people. Sometimes we do it wrong. Like sometimes there is in Israel people that throw, the religious people throw rocks on the other, on people that drive in Shabbat. So this is, it's wrong. I mean, it's something that, okay, they're doing their job, like they're doing what the Torah said, but from the other hand, they make problems.
The Torah didn't say throw rocks. What did
That's
Torah say,
right.
throw rocks?
So
Didn't say throw rocks. No, that's the reason they do that, to justify what they do that. I haven't heard lately them doing that anymore, but they feel that they want to preserve their Judaism. And if they see their kids watch people doing things, desecrating Shabbat, they want them to show that we're so against it. They don't want them to go, okay, it's not. If we see something desecrating Shabbat, we should be very upset. How could you do something like that? But we don't feel like, okay, he has his life. We don't get so upset about it anymore. Get used to it. They don't want to get used to it. They want to, Shabbat, throw stones. Can't do that. It's terrible. So they keep the sensitivity in order to. They're not doing the stones for the person throwing it at. They're doing it for people throwing the stones. That they should feel that we're not going to tolerate this. This is something that against Judaism, it's against God. We can't sit back and watch it happen. They don't want to lose their sensitivity to the thing. But the bottom line is that it's not the thing to do. All the great rabbis are against it. That's not the way you treat people, because you just chase them away more than you bring them closer. You have to bring them closer with a smile, not with a stone. That's what you have to do.
We got one email here which says, I have no particular question to ask. I only want to appreciate the good work you've been doing. I've been following every class online, and I'm so grateful. Thank you very much. Somebody, Lillian. Somebody named Lillian Mena, and it's echoing that, I'm sure, what everybody here feels also.
You know, I just thought of it today. This is an anniversary of we started after Chanukah, the first, how many years now? We finished 4 years, I think, now? 4 years? How many years was it? This is the anniversary. After we always celebrate after Chanukah. We started. I think it's 4 years. Yeah, Baruch Hashem. Who was here for the first time? Anybody for the first time? Okay. We should get awards out. Oh, you here? Great. It's wonderful. We started the shul outside the first time in the shul. Oh, yeah. Any other questions? Comments? Anything more in the email? Coming in? Okay, we have a quarter of a minute left. Well, the way our custom is to put the candles from right, facing the menorah, you put from right to left, but lighting, you light left to right. Oh, yes, because you want to, the one on the total left side is the one for the new day. So you want to show that miracle kept getting stronger and stronger. So you light the new candle that you put in just now, you light it first to show that the miracle became stronger today. It shows that every day, the last day was a bigger miracle. Every day they couldn't get over it. It lasted 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. Every day was everybody. So it kept bigger and bigger all the time. Okay, everybody, so thank you very much. I hope to see you all next week. Mirz Hashem. Oh, Ellie's going to marry to Chicago. Yeah, next week. We wish them all the best. You should have a very happy life. And maybe we'll start a branch in Chicago. We'll start a